Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Let's do this. Welcome back to the J East Podcast. Episode number 93 of the podcast. That is right. I am Jay East. I am your host. I'm here to get into all the good stuff. So, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into this. Come on. You guys feeling good? You guys feeling good? I'm feeling great. I'm Jay East. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for watching the podcast. If you are watching it on YouTube, I appreciate that. I don't want to spend too much time really talking in this intro. Let's get straight to the topic. So this is episode number 93. This is another section of the core series. So if you listen to the last week's episode, number 92, was about consistency. I briefly touched on this topic in last week's episode, but I've spoken about it a lot if you've listened to any of the other previous episodes or if you've watched any of my previous other videos. I've touched on repetition a bit, not only in the last episode, but on the 7th episode of this podcast. So if you really wanted to take a trip down memory lane, you could go about, 86. Yeah, I think it's 86. I think my math is good there. 86 episodes back, and you could check out the episode on repetition there. This one's going to be very similar, but we're going to be talking, obviously, about some other different things. It's not going to be exactly the same. If it did, then there would be no reason to do this episode, right? So repetition is something that I have repeated on quite a few. See what I did there? Repetition, repeated. Anyway, all jokes aside, it's a pretty big part of most success, and it's a pretty big part of most people's journeys. Of course, it's going to be part of this core series, and of course, you're going to hear this repeated over and over and over again. In order for you to succeed, in order for you to do anything, in order for you to get something down packed, it usually involves creating proper habits and creating proper routines. And repetition is exactly that. Now, repetition is a great thing if it's done correctly. If it's not done correctly, well, then it could kind of be a problem, because if you're repeating the wrong thing over and over and over again, then it becomes a habit, and it's a bad habit. It's a habit that you may not want, and that is where I think a lot of people, including myself, usually end up. I can't lie. I've have a lot of, bad habits and different things like that I'm sure if I didn't constantly repeat doing, then they would not exist. But I'm human, as are all of you that are listening to this episode. At least I hope everyone is listening to this episode. You never know. But so what's my point here, right? In order for you to be consistent at doing something, you have to repeat doing it at the point that you successfully did it. In order for you to have any kind of consistency in life, you're going to have to repeat a lot of things. Now, a lot of people do not like repeating things over and over and over and over and over and over again. They like to change things up. But like I mentioned in the episode about consistency, the dangerous thing about that is if you're always changing things, and if things are always constantly, being done differently, then there's no way of really knowing what was successful or where your success lied or how to repeat that same success again. Makes sense so far, I'm hoping. Should. Repetition is literally the act or the recurrence of an event or an action. It's something that has already been said. It is something that has already been written. It is something that has already been done. Now, that seems, again, pretty straightforward. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, where is the power in repetition? Why is repetition part of, this core series? Everything in the core series has to do with the fact that it's so simple that it can be done. But because of its simplicity, it's usually not done. It's overthought, it's missed, it's delegated, it's thrown to the side, it's punted for other things to be done that is viewed as more difficult. And as simple as repetition is, that's what makes it difficult. That's also what makes it important. You know, if you look it up and you look up the definition, I'm pretty sure that you're going to see that repetition is like a key learning aid. It's one of these things that they use to teach people. It's one of the things that they use to help people gain a skill. It's one of the things that they use to help transition a skill from just being in your conscious to your subconscious. And once it reaches your subconscious, that's the point where it's almost like autopilot, where you're just going to do it because that's what you're used to doing. If you would, it's kind of like walking. You know, you've repeated the steps so many times when you were a child, when you were a kid, when you were growing. Emphasis on that growing point, because I'm going to talk about that again. But you've repeated it so many times when you were growing that it just became, as we like to say, second nature to you. But what it really is, it's that because you repeated it and you constantly kept doing it and you constantly kept doing it better or hopefully correctly, it became a skill that was no longer in your conscious. You just subconsciously can do it now. You don't really put very much thought into how to walk. You don't really put very much thought into walking. You know, most people just kind of get up and they walk. They do what they're going to do. People that have suffered accidents or, you know, that may have been in some form of an accident at some point or another and have lost that ability, they will be the first ones to tell you that learning how to walk again, or learning how to walk how you used to, or, you know, regaining this skill that you seem to have lost or forgotten, it's not easy. Seems easy. It's not easy, and it involves a lot of repetition, and it involves usually a lot of falling. And that's the thing about repetition. It's going to involve a lot of moments where it's going to appear as though you failed, because if you were just nailing it every single time, it would be easy. It would be too easy. It would be way too easy. But as we know, nothing in life is that easy. And that in itself is the reason why this falls in the core series. You know, through this repetition of constantly doing things, this is how you practice. This is how you perfect. And this is how you make a certain skill permanent. You know, again, that saying, practice makes perfect. It's not true. Practice makes permanent. If you permanently practice something incorrectly, it will become permanent until you practice the correct way to do it. So you can't say that practice makes perfect. There's a lot of people out there that can tell you that they've practiced things in the wrong way, and then it's become, again, second nature to them. So that's, you know, one of the really, really important things about understanding, about practicing and repeating something and repetition. You know, again, as I'm talking about this, you know, a lot of people are thinking about, you know, mastering things, and they're thinking about, well, you know, I understand all that, but how big of a deal is repetition that, you know, we're even really discussing it? We're even really talking about it right now. Well, it's a pretty big deal. I think it's a pretty big deal. And I hope by the end of this episode, you'll understand why I feel like that. So, most of the time, when you have to pull off a really big project, what is this? Like the horns. Most of the time, when you have to pull off a really big project, when you have to get something really big done, whether it's, you know, a goal, a life goal, you know, whether it's, again, a project, something for work, something of that self, you know, the trick is getting started. You can't finish something if you don't start it. But again, most of the time we get in this habit of looking at the end before we've gotten anywhere near the beginning. How are you going to get to the end if you don't start? You have to start in order to get to the end. Again, seems really simple, but it's a lot harder than it may seem. You know, Mark Twain, yes, that Mark Twain, the writer, Mark Twain, the author, Mark Twain, that guy. Mark Twain said, the secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming task into small, manageable tasks and then starting on the first one. And this is completely true. It's usually the easiest way because it's hard to accomplish something that seems as if it is too large and it's going to take up too much time. But if you break it down into steps, if you break it down into phases, if you break it down into segments, then it becomes a little bit easier. And that is exactly what we're doing with the core series. That's not why I bring it up. Bring it up more about repetition, but that is the same principle that lies with the core series. The reason I say that is because all of these things that make up the core series, if I just put them all in one giant thing, in one giant episode, and it's just one giant topic, and I'm not breaking it down, and I ask you to get all of this accomplished in one shot, it's going to be very, very difficult. I'm not going to say that you can't, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there in the world that are like me, that are like, oh, you're not about to tell me I can't do something, and then they're going to do everything in their power to get it done. Yes, we're stubborn people, I know. No, there are people that can get it done, but it's going to be very difficult. There's no reason to go the difficult route when there's always a simpler route. And that is the reason why we're breaking these sections, or I shouldn't say sections, I should say layers of the core series down. And they're all going to make this core, they're all going to tie back together. But you got to break it down so that it's easier for you to accomplish each one. Because it's something a little bit more attainable than asking you to, climb this giant mountain and get this massive thing done. So, again, back to repetition, back to habits. So I have this book. It's called The Power of the Habit. It's back there, actually. I'm about to go grab it for everyone that's watching this on YouTube so you can see it. Spotify people, Apple people, my listeners, the people that are listening, obviously you're not going to be able to see it because you're listening, but I will tell you the name of the author and the name of the book and what it looks like so you can look it up. So the name of the book is The Power of the Habit, or The Power of Habit. Author is Charles Duhigg, Duhigg, pretty simple, and it's a yellow and red book cover. Now, give me a second. It's going to take a quick second. And this is the book. This is the book. The Power of Habit. So, it's actually really useful. The Power of Habit is really useful because it helps you develop this routine. It helps you see, what are your triggers and what are the things that kind of get you to do the things that you do, or the things that get you to not do the things that you want to do. And that's part of, creating habits. That's part of repetition in itself. Part of it lies in actually making these habits and actually beginning, and actually understanding what is going to help you begin creating these habits. So I encourage everyone to go get the book. Check it out. It's pretty good. You'll learn a lot. It'll help you a lot with repetition. It'll help you a lot with life in general, as will, this core series. But shameless plug for that book. I just really like the book. I just really wanted to mention it. That's why I ran and I got the book. So, again, repetition. We're going to keep repeating that until it kind of gets like fermented in there, until it's like, really sitting in your mind really, really good. So, repetition. As we sit here and we do the things that we're doing in life, and this is why it's part of the core series, you're going to notice that you repeat a lot of things a lot of the time. It almost feels like deja vu sometimes, whether it's your way of going to work, whether it's your commute, whether it's your routine, whether it's your dinner, your sleep cycle, your shower routine, journaling, the way how you do your work, when you eat, what you eat, how you eat, all these different things. There is repetition that is built in by nature in everything that we do. And that, I think, is pretty amazing, because as with everything that I've mentioned in the core series, these things are all important in your growth, but they're also important just in your general life. If you want to grow, I encourage you that once you have found something that is successful, to discipline yourself enough to repeat it, do it again, and see if it is executed again the same way. Following me so far? I say this so that you can get all of the variables out of the way that could potentially change the success that you think that you had, or the success that you actually do have. It's easy to think that, because you did this, that this is the outcome, but you're not going to really know until you practice pretty much what you're saying, and until you actually go there and repeat it. It's really what it is. It's how it goes. So, first things first, when you do something right, when something works, repeat it, do it again, see if it works again. And then if it works again, and you know that this is your sustained success, this is your way of nailing that success that you wanted to get, if you know this is the way of completing a task, if you know that this is a surefire way because you've done it once or twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times or even 10 times, once you've done it enough times, that is when you can start to implement that and try to move it. I shouldn't say try. I really should say just move it. That's when you will move it from your conscious into your subconscious. Example I will give you. Any athlete that's the best at what they do, whether we're talking LeBron James, whether we're talking Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, Naomi Osaka, like anybody that we're talking about, you will see that they constantly do the same routines over and over and over again. But it's the routines that they know work for them. It's the things that they know work for them. Whether it's their diet, whether it's, again, their sleep, whether it's, their routine of their sport or their job. Usain Bolt's a runner, so he may have a certain routine that he does to increase his speed, to make sure that he's still nailing his speed, to make sure that he's prepped. Serena Williams or a tennis player may have a certain routine that they do to make sure that exactly how to get to these certain angles in case these situations arise. LeBron James, whether it's practicing a certain shot or shooting from a certain place. Michael Phelps, diving a certain way, or, pushing off a certain way once in the water. Gabby Douglas, a certain way that she does her flips, a certain way that she does her moves, whatever it is. They all have proven success. And because they know that this is the way that they've proven to be successful at doing it, they constantly repeat it. So it's one less thing to worry about, to focus on. Kobe Bryant. The late Kobe Bryant is someone that has drilled this into so many people with the way how he said it, that he would practice and he would shoot from the same place, the same way 10,000 times on the court. Why? So that he knew that in a game, if he was in that spot, he knew without a shadow of a doubt, okay, cool, I'm confident taking this shot. Is it always going to go in? No. But the odds are higher in his favor that it's going to go in, because it's something that he's practiced. It's something that he's repeated. It's something that he has pretty much drilled through himself in repetition. And that is where the repetition lies in life. If you're a chef and you've perfected a recipe, you've perfected a certain way of doing something, why would you change it if you know that you're guaranteed to get a certain result in a certain time by doing it a certain way? Why? Why would you tinker with it? The only reason that I could see someone tinkering with something in that scenario is if they're looking to improve it more. But that is not someone that's looking to grow. That is someone that's looking to master a skill. And before we get to the point of mastering anything, we first have to grow. And that is the core series. This is all about growth. This is all about growing. We're not at the point of mastering anything. No matter how good you think that you are at something, no matter how good that you know that you are at something, there's still growth that needs to transpire. There's still growth that needs to occur. The moment that you don't need to grow anymore at something or doing something, that is the moment. That is the moment when you can honestly say that you have planned and you're prepared for every single outcome and you know exactly what's going to happen. But not very many people reach that point in life. I can tell you in my own journey as a photographer with my cameras that I'm using to shoot this episode, I can tell you that there's certain shots that I have gotten. There's certain shots I have nailed. But I have not perfected the art of nailing that shot every single time. I have a routine. I have a certain way of doing it. I have a certain playlist that I listen to when I want to get a certain shot, just because I know for sure that it's going to put my mind in this state that I can do what I want to do, and I know that I can execute to the level that I want to execute. But even saying that, I have not mastered that. I haven't perfected it. It's not even permanent. There's still a lot of growth that needs to occur in doing that. If I had reached that point and every single shot that I was putting out there was silk gold butter and it's coming out exactly how I wanted it to come out, that'd be amazing. That would be great. Not there yet, though. But that's where I'm going to work to get. And I think that's where everyone that's listening to this episode has something to work to get. We all have something. We're all doing something that we want to do better, or we aspire to do better, or that we are actively doing good but can exceed that standard. And the trick to getting there is repetition. It's not changing the way how you're doing it. It's not changing what is working. It's doing it over and over again, no matter how boring that seems, no matter how dull that seems, no matter how plain that seems, no matter how blah that is going to come off. That's just what it is. That's just how it works. This is where the growth occurs. The growth occurs in the patch where it's not exciting. It's not. There's nothing exciting about doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But there is something exciting in doing something and knowing that you can almost predict what the outcome is going to be. And the only way that you can do that is through constant repetition and constant growth. Then you start to, slightly tweak things and modify things to see where the adjustments can occur. Because after you've done something for so many times, that's where it occurs. That's where you start to see okay, if I did this a little bit different, then this works. I like to tell myself and I like to tell people something that I remember I read. I don't even remember who said it. I should probably look it up, but I don't know who said it. But the person that said it, genius. The line, I don't know if it was a female or if it was a male, or I'm not sure who said it, but what they said was, they said, as a photographer, the first 10,000 shots that you take will not be your best shots. No matter how good those shots seem in that first 10,000, those are not going to be your best shots. Your best shots will occur after the first 10,000 shots. Same thing applies with making a meal. After making a meal 10,000 times, that's when you will have really made the meal to the best of your abilities. I know at number 999, it may seem like that's your best, but there's still some growth. There's still some improvement that's going to occur if you trust the process and you just stay patient and you do it. There's a lot of patience that's involved with this whole repetition thing. And that's funny too, because again, with this whole core series, when you start to see all the different parts, it starts to make a lot of sense. And sneak peek, that's the next part. The fifth layer, if you would, of the core series is patience. And you're going to need a lot of patience to get through this repetition phase, and to get through the consistency phase, and to show love, and to even understand love. Listen, you're just going to need it for everything. So I'm not going to sit here and drive this through to your brains anymore. I think you all pretty much kind of get an understanding of it. If you did go back and you did check out episode number 7, I look forward to hearing your opinion of how episode number 7 pairs up to this one. I hope that it's different. I didn't use any of my notes from episode number 7. I did this one with a completely separate, different set of notes. But in the effort of attaining that repetition, I did repeat some things, and I did tweak and modify some things along the way, obviously. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, to those of you that are watching it, thank you for watching it. I really appreciate you guys. To those of you that are listening, I appreciate you too. Thank you for listening. Please feel free, drop me a message, shoot me a message on social media, shoot me a message, in the review. If you want to email me, you can do that too. You can drop a message on my email. You can hit me up anywhere. I'm pretty easy to find. JEast, JAE__EAST. Just Google JEast. I'll pop up. Again, I'm pretty easy to find. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Share the episode with someone that can use this message. Share this with someone. Please stay strong on your journeys. We're all on a different journey. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough time in a lot of people's lives. So I encourage you to just kind of stay the course, stay strong, and I will check you guys out on the next episode. That'll be episode number 94. But until then, be safe, be well. Oh, and don't forget, the journey will not stop.